Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. So this video's for rock players who maybe want a little bit of an insight into how to dip their toe into that jazz sound without too much of a upfront investment. Now, just to say upfront for this video, there's going to be a lot of generalizations here. You're going to find a lot of players in both camps who don't follow these rules and who take the opposite approach. But again, this is just a first step for people who are first trying to get into this sound. So I'm not trying to claim that this is all you need to know. There's plenty more to know than this, but this is certainly one of the major differences between the two genres. So this can be simply defined as playing over the changes versus playing the changes. Now, changes just means the chord changes, what chords are going on underneath. Playing over the changes is, you can think of us kind of gliding over the top, and we're playing the right notes and in the right key, but we're not necessarily outlining every possible chord. So playing the changes is, of course, the opposite of that, where we really focus on making sure that we're primarily playing the exact notes of every single chord. So you can think of this as kind of a perspective thing. The slightly more rock approach is quite zoomed out. We look at the chord progression as a whole and we try and find as much in common as possible, and generally that means finding a blues scale that fits all those chords, and we'll stick to that. The jazz approach is zooming in on every individual chord, again, not always, but zooming in on every individual chord and making sure that the notes of each chord are the structure around which we're going to build our ideas. So if we take a really common progression in jazz, which is called the 2-5-1, in the key of C major, that would be D minor, G7, C. So if we wanted to find a blues scale that worked over all of that, we would just simply ask ourselves, well, what key are we in here? And in this instance, we're in the key of C. So we can play our C major or A minor. So I'm going to play the chords and then I'm going to try and outline them using the notes of just that pentatonic. 2, 3, 4. So there was nothing wrong with that at all. And I would certainly be happy to play in that sort of style nowadays in a jazz performance. It's absolutely fine. However, it's not always going to give me the exact sound I'm after. So the other approach, playing the changes, that was an example of playing over the changes. Playing the changes is I now need to go deep dive into what the notes of each of these chords are. Now, this is not going to be a lesson about that today. The point of this video is for you to go away and better research these things, and there's plenty of content on this channel for you to do that. So I'm just going to tell you the answers for today. D minor 7 is D, F, A and C. G7, G, B, D and F. And C major 7 is C, E, G and B. So I'm going to primarily build my ideas around those notes. And the trick here, the secret, so to speak, is to just use patterns and shapes that you already know. This is the way that both Joe Pass, who's one of the classic jazz players, and a modern guy like Tim Miller talk about building their phrases. They're visualizing the chords going past, they're seeing those shapes and using them as a framework around which to build their melodies. So again, I'm going to play the chords and then I'm going to try and play the changes rather than playing over the changes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that time, hopefully you could hear the chords a bit more clearly in passing. Now don't worry if you couldn't hear that. It's really difficult at first. I remember my guitar teacher when I was probably 14 or 15 demonstrating basically how to do this, how to outline the changes. And because I didn't have the chords firmly enough in my head in the first place, I couldn't quite pick up on what he was doing. But you very quickly, your ear comes around to hearing this stuff. And of course, the stronger your ear develops, the more what we call outside, or the further removed from the chords you can play, or you can hear someone else playing and still kind of pull those back to the original chords in your head. So to summarize that point, playing over the changes is where we pick a single key, a single scale, and we simply play that one that fits all the chords. And the opposite approach is playing the changes, which is where we're trying to use the notes of the chords themselves as the framework around which our melodies are built. And it's kind of the same thing. We're using a lot of the same notes, but it gives us a very different result. And this is one of the biggest weaknesses of students who come to me who can already play. They've got a good rock vocabulary and they're now interested in dipping their toe into jazz improvisation. This is really one of the biggest weaknesses, and again, it was for me as a player as well. So what I would suggest you do is, you're not going to be able to do this straight away. You need to really study how chords are constructed. And in fact, I've got a video up here, which is 29 minutes long or something like that, and it will tell you everything you need to know about working out chords. And just sticking to the content in that video and applying it to your instrument, you'll find that you're very soon able to outline the changes of any chord progression that you see, and you'll be able to more feel like you're inside the changes more, just really like nailing them, which is what we want. And finally, just to recap, this is not a jazz is better than rock, or all rock guitarists play this way and all jazz guitarists play this way. That's certainly not the point at all, but it's simply just to dip your toe into the slightly subtle differences between the two approaches. There's an awful lot in common, especially in modern jazz. We've incorporated so much from rock into modern jazz, and vice versa. Actually, a lot of rock players nowadays are playing very much inside the changes. So I hope you found that one useful. If you did, please do give it a like, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and share with any of your friends who want to get inside those changes. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers!
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, you're drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out, and I heard you find it difficult to cope. Well, here by this bottle full of hope and limited supply, short-lived desire. You'll be needing some mirrors for the smoke.